right, let's move on, Pickle. You just heard Ashley Gonzalez's take on the Coastal Bend region, players to watch, teams to look out for, and some storylines to follow during the season. But now it's time to give you our take on the Coastal Bend region. And personally, this is probably one of my favorite regions because it's near the beach.
The beach.
The beach.
We love the beach. If we haven't made that incredibly clear, we love the beach.
Why are we in DFW? There's no beaches here.
Yeah, okay, so how easy do you think it would be to go up to, like, we need to go into our president's office today and go, Adam, we have an idea.
You know, I think it would be more beneficial I think I'd get more work done if we moved the office down to the beach. Coast.
Yeah.
Any coast.
Any
coast. The coast.
Yeah.
But preferably the coast.
See, I keep saying we need to go to the RGV
because
we get all that the RGV has to offer, but we also get South Padre Island, which is the beach. So I've been beating that drum for 2.5 years.
We're workshopping some stuff on this show right now, and I like
big idea territory.
This is big. We got some big ideas going on here. But anyways, yeah, there you go. There are 53 total teams in the Coastal Bend region, 14 of which are ranked in our DCTF preseason poll. And if you're wondering, that's 26% of the region that is ranked, and that is not one of the top percentages, right? What was our top one that we have? Is it 53%? No, it wasn't that high, was it? Was it 30%, 40%?
No, it was up in the 30s.
It was up in the 30s?
Yeah,
okay,
30% is right. Everywhere's been in between like 25 and like 37, I think, was our highest. I need to go back and look.
Right. But what I think is most impressive with this region is that, like I mentioned earlier on the phone with Ashley, is that in every single classification, minusing divisions, because there's, I think, 2A Division 2, there aren't any teams that are ranked. But in each classification down to 2A, 5 to 2A, because there's no 6A teams in the Coastal Bend region, there's at least one ranked team in that classification. So I think that's pretty interesting. But I'm sure you're wondering which 14 teams are ranked in the Coastal Bend region. So let's go ahead and start with Class 5A Division 1, because like I said, there's no 6A.
Yeah, the highest one here, Class 5A Division 1. They are a perennial powerhouse since they became a school down there. Number 11 in Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial. Then we go down to 5A Division 2, and you're going to see district buddies now. Woo! Number 16, Gregory Portland, Coach Brent Davis and his staff. And then the aforementioned number 19, Corpus Christi Flower Bluff Hornets, who last year made it to the state semifinalist. They were state semifinalists for the first time in school history. So we will get into that district, not only that region, but that district in particular in a bit. Moving on now to 4A Division 1. This is where you'll see the bulk of the teams here. In number 4, El Campo, the Rice Birds. We will definitely talk about them. And this is this is another one of those teams that's really kind of out in an area that it's kind of hard to classify.
Yeah.
Them, and we've talked a lot about Refurio, so there's no surprise that they're a ranked team that we'll talk about in a second. But both of those are kind of more in that middle of nowhere region. They're not in like that depth of Corpus Christi.
Right.
So say what you will, but El Campo definitely fits in best right there in the coastal region. Then we bring it back to Corpus Christi. We go to number 6 in Corpus Christi, Cal Allen, who will not have Phil Danaher as their head coach. Long-time winningest coach in high school football history. For the first time in 40 years, it will be Steve Campbell taking over. So a new look, kind of, Corpus Christi Cal Allen team. And then rounding it out in 4A Division 1, we go to number 18 in Rockport Fulton. Moving on to 4A Division 2, we have Coach Michael Troutman's excited always Sinton Pirates sitting at number 13. If you've ever had a conversation with Coach Troutman, it is like, if the dial only goes up to 10, he's at a 17 at all times. It is awesome.
I feel like that's me, though.
I mean, he can say, like, hi, and I'm ready to run through a brick wall. He's
let's
like,
go.
Hi, Michael. And I'm like, oh, my God, let's go. And then rounding out 4A Division 2, it is number 20 in Ingleside, who's a team that I think that you should keep your eye on a little bit.
For sure.
3A Division 1, we have number 9, Edna, and then number 19 in Vanderbilt Industrial, the Vipers pulling in there. 3A Division 2, number 9, East Bernard, and we'll round that out with number 17 in Tidehaven. And then we get down to the smallest classification with representation in in the Coastal Bend, and it might be the most prolific team who has the best chance to make it to AT&T Stadium in the number 3 Refurio Bobcats. And then rounding it out there, another team that has just always in the rankings, always in the hunt, kind of down there, number 16 in Ganado. So those are the 14 total teams that are ranked in the Coastal Bend region.
It's a lot of good teams.
It really
is.
is.
Matchups, too, because a lot of them are going to be playing each other as well.
Well, and the consistency in the Coastal Bend is always what I think.
Right.
And it's not necessarily consistency in getting to AT&T Stadium. I wouldn't say that all the time we see them as like state contenders,
Right.
but they are always right there in the rankings. Like, you're gonna have someone in the top 10 year in and year out, and they rep that hard. And the coolest thing about the Coastal Bend in my mind is when they do make it far in the playoffs, it doesn't matter if you're from Vets and Miller's playing, you're showing up.
Yep.
Like, there is the rivalry when they're playing each other, but if you get to go play a regional final, usually it's against an RGV team or something. Usually it's against an Austin team, and they meet
Right.
in San Antonio. All of the Coastal Bend travels. They rep the flag, and I think that's the best part about the Coastal Bend region.
Yeah, that's what makes football so great is those fans that travel to almost every game, because that's not like that in every state.
No,
Sure.
absolutely not.
Let's move on to some of the players to watch in the Coastal Bend region. And like we mentioned earlier, there is a lot of talent.
Yeah.
A lot of talent here in this region. But let's go ahead and start off with Corpus Christi Miller, wide receiver Lonnie Adkism. It's one of those names that I'm just like, I got to sound out.
Yeah.
You heard Ashley talk about him earlier. He's kind of the star guy that Corpus Christi Miller has this season. He's 6'1", 185 pounds, and he's committed to the eventual Division 1 FBS school, Sam Houston State. I'm going to read you his junior campaign real quick because it's going to take a lot out of you. He put up 1,638 yards and 18 receiving touchdowns. I'm no mathematician, like I said all the time, but that's pretty dang good if you ask me. And and he could finish his career as one of the most productive pass catchers in state history.
Yeah.
So if I was you, keep your eye on this guy. He also has some experience on playing both sides of the ball. He played a little bit in the secondary as a sophomore, but definitely going to be quarterback's go-to guy this season.
Well, and the thing that was most impressive about Lonnie was watching him very early on. We saw him really, really take spark, because you'll remember, not last year, but the year before last, so I guess the 2020 season, he had, and 2019, I mean, he had Andrew Body throwing to him. Now the Texas Southern quarterback, who was one of the best talents that we've seen out of the Corpus Christi area in really forever. But he really bumped his numbers up there because as a very young player. So the most impressive thing is we're sitting there going, okay, is it just because he has superstar talent, Andrew Body throwing to him, or is this kid really as talented as we think that he is? And he's proved. Now Miller still has fantastic quarterback play, but he has proved to be, it doesn't matter if it's the best quarterback that the Coastal Bend has ever seen, or if it's a quarterback that's maybe not as talented as Andrew Body. Lonnie Atkinson is one that you have to keep an eye on.
For sure. Moving on to Gregory Portland, defensive lineman, Khalid Goldsby. Khalid, it's probably Khalid Goldsby. I'm just going to go off of the rapper Khalid, but, anyways. He's entering his senior season as a 6'2", 215-pound defensive end. Cool. Now, while watching his tape earlier today, I noticed that he's really quick off the edge, and he's got a really, really good eye for the ball. I couldn't find his stats or anything because it's harder as you move down the ranks to find, specific statistics like that.
Lineman.
For sure. But I'd be really interested to see how many tackles for a loss he's had this season, or just really how many tackles he's made behind the line of scrimmage, because he knows he can get back there super quickly, and he's got to take for the ball.
Oh yeah, and obviously he's blowing past those offensive lines and getting plenty of sacks, but I think, like you said, the best thing is being able, not everyone at that size specifically can take a step off the line.
Exactly.
And get the follow-up play. Once they've broken the line of scrimmage, it's a lot harder to maneuver that big of a body. And yeah, he's good. He's got really good feet.
He's going to be a problem on the edge for sure. And this guy, of course, needs no introduction to you guys. El Campo running back Ruben
Owens. Have you heard of him?
I think
seems
that's
right.
How you say it, but yeah, this dude's. I'm gonna say it. He's the best running back in the state. There is no going around that. Nearly reached 3,000 yards last season, 46 touchdowns rushing, and he's also got 2 receiving touchdowns. And looking at that stat, to me, says how versatile this player really is. You know, he can catch the ball. He's super fast. I just think that you can't go around saying that he's not the best running back in the state. With those kinds of numbers and being so versatile like he is, I really just don't see how you can't say that.
No, and we've been saying that for years. I mean, there's been no doubt about that. What I love about watching Ruben Owens play is his play on the defensive side of the ball too, because he's, like you said, the best running back in the state. Is there that much of a reason for him to go out there and give it his all on defense? No, but he does.
Right.
So yeah, coach is very happy to have him in his pocket.
And I think too, when you can run the ball really well and you can also catch, putting yourself on the other side of the ball too, just to try and see, you're going to do well.
Oh, I mean,
those skills translate to the other side of the ball.
I was at their game last year against Bernie Champion. Now, Bernie Champion had, 6 of their starters out with injury, so it was an off game for them. But Ruben Owens in the first half had like 200 yards and like 2 or 3 interceptions in that game. I mean, it was unbelievable to watch the clinic he put on.
Jeez. Yeah, with him on this El Campo team, I don't see why they can't make a good run in the playoffs this season. He's verbally committed to Louisville, but of course right now verbal commitments don't mean much. So
we'll see. I would
probably
be surprised.
It's going to change. I'm just going to say that. Moving on down to Goliad cornerback Demetrius Steptoe.
One of the best names in the state.
I was just about to say that, Steptoe. But before we get into Steptoe, I want to talk a little bit about Goliad
Before
first.
we step into Steptoe.
Turn your mic off.
I'll be here all week.
Turn your mic off.
No, you're not running the board today, ma'am. I have full control over here.
I can't reach it over there. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Goliad first before we get into him. In 2020, Goliad went winless, 0-9, did not win a single game. Last year, they were able to turn it on the Jets a little bit. They went 6-5.
Big turnaround.
Yeah, and clinched a playoff berth. And what does that say about that? Almost every single defensive starter from last year is returning. So let's go ahead and talk about Demetrius Steptoe. I think that stat right there says that he's going to be set up for success in this defensive system. He's leading the way with 7 interceptions on the season last year, and he's only a junior. So I think Goliad's definitely lucky to have him back in the secondary.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be the key leader on that defense, especially now that he's considered an upperclassman. Yeah. But we've known he's been the leader on that defense since he stepped foot on that Goliad team. Let's
talk about some big men.
Big men.
Odom, offensive lineman. Matthew Acosta, man. There's a reason Odom went 11-1 last season, and we'll talk more about Odom later. But I think size and talent in the trenches had a lot to do with that. They were led by Acosta. He's 5'10", 285 pounds. And guys, we say it all the time. When you've got that kind of size on the line at a 3A, 2A, even 1A school, you're set up for success. I think like I said, big size up front is always a good thing to have. But when you have a guy that can stick with his blocks and free up that space for the backfield, you're gonna do well. You're gonna have a good season for sure. Moving on down to another offensive lineman, we've got Refurio offensive lineman RJ Moore, and here's more Refurio talk if you guys were missing it.
And guess what? We're going to talk about him again later.
Refurio, of course, needs no introduction. I think they really seem to have talent in every position.
Oh, yeah. They're always big, too. I mean, that's just the thing. They've got skill players. They're always big. But, yeah, J.R. Moore has been a key staple in that line, which they've needed a little bit the past couple years.
Yeah, for sure. He's 6'1", 210 pounds, and it's, like we said, it's always good to have that kind of size up front, especially in a lower classification. He's also our Class 2A preseason, on our Class 2A preseason All-State team, so be on the lookout for him.
This is actually like one of my favorite names in the state.
Okay.
When I was doing the magazine last year, and came across this. I literally sent a screenshot to Tepper, and I was like, this rules.
When I searched his name, you know what pictures came up? Not pictures of Nemo Jacobo. Nemo the fish. And I was like, all right, well, that's not what I want, but thanks. We've got, is it Agua Dulce?
Yes.
Okay, linebacker Nemo Jacobo. Our District 16 2A Division II preseason defensive MVP. But he also plays quarterback, too. Just you want to throw that in there. That's pretty dang cool. He's probably, I would say, the most impactful player that this team has on and off the field this season. The Longhorns have great experience coming back really on both sides of the ball and really look to be a force to be reckoned with in District 16 2A Division II.
Unbelievable name. School name.
Great. It's great.
Kid's name. All of it. I have no notes.
No
Literally
notes.
no notes
Except
on
a
Agua
picture of a
Dulce
fish.
linebacker Nemo Jacobo.
Except a picture of a fish. Nemo from
No notes.
No notes. So there you go. There's some players to watch in the Coastal Bend region. We've been saying it the whole time. There is a lot of talent down there. So good to bring up some of those names. And lastly, Pickle, let's go to storylines to follow in the Coastal Bend region. First up, we got a district to watch, and that is, we already mentioned them before. It's District 15 5A Division 2, and I'd say that if you got a district and you got one team that's ranked in it, that's pretty cool, right? That's good. That's good. What if you got two teams that are ranked in the preseason DCTF poll? Is it AP DCTF preseason? But it's a lot of words. A lot of words there. But two teams. Let's go ahead and start off with Gregory Portland. As you remember, they are ranked number 16 in the preseason poll. And Corpus Christi Flower Bluff ranked 19 in the poll. Both made pretty good deep playoff runs last season, but if you remember, Gregory Portland fell short to Corpus Christi Flower Bluff in the quarterfinals.
Yeah,
something like that last season. So,
they played in the regional finals there, and then that's what pushed Flower Bluff into, because Gregory Portland is perennial name to know down in the Coastal Bend area. So when they met up, we were going, oh man, like how cool would that be for Flower Bluff to be able to push through that, get to their first state semifinal as that. But yeah, they fell to them, and that's what pushed Flower Bluff into the state semifinal, then losing to eventual 5A Division I state champion Katy Pato, because they are drop downs.
Right. But both teams also have a lot coming back on both sides of the ball, so definitely going to be a tough district to play in this season. Tough for both of them too, because they got to play each other at some point, and so it's going to be some hard nose hitting football.
Right, and you can expect these teams to most likely finish 1A, 1B.
For sure.
Because the interesting thing about this district when we were watching realignment and putting it together was the fact that they're paired up with RGV teams, and we don't typically see that from either of these teams. So to see them kind of end up, they went to that 5A Division II classification and looked around, and it was like, man, we don't have many options around here. There's not many teams in that area of the state, so they looked up, and the only place they really could go was down there to the RGV. So basically you have these two teams, a bunch of RGV teams. So this likely, I would say, would decide the district championship of who is going to win that game.
Right. So there you go. There's a district to watch if you needed one. Some good talent in there. But let's go ahead and switch gears here to some dark horses, specifically in 3A. We put out a section every year in the DCTF magazine of about 4 to 5 dark horses to watch in each classification. And 2 from the Coastal Bend region are in that section. We've got bowling, like a bowling ball. I like it. And Odom. Both starting the year unranked. If you remember, I mentioned earlier that Odom went 11-1 last season, which you might say, hey, that should break grounds to be a ranked team, you know. But the thing with Odom is that their district schedule is fairly easy.
Right. Yeah,
They've got an easy schedule. And so one of the things that we take into account, every ranking poll takes into account, is the strength of schedule. And if your strength of schedule isn't super difficult, then you're probably going to fall in the rankings. Odom has an unbelievable dual threat quarterback. I've got his name, Hunter Dawson, who's got quite a few really good weapons around him. And so with him leading the team, I think that Odom is definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with in 3A.
Yeah, I think that they're the clear-cut favorite there in District 16. So
Yes.
then when we get to that point, then you kind of stop and you take a look at the region, and it's the same player. Even though realignment happened, not a whole lot switched with 3A Division 2 here. And so what you look at is you have teams like Poth, which they lost to in the regional semis last year, and then the other team, which is also in this region in the Coastal Bend, would be East Bernard. So they lost to Poth last year. You get there and you think, okay, if we can make it to that thing, I think that Odom has the pieces that they need to push past that. I think Poth might be taking a little bit of a step back this year, but with Poth taking a little bit of a step back, I am really high on East Bernard. I think that they're being a little bit slept on this year, so I think that those will be the three teams in 3A Division 2 Region 4 that you really need to keep your eye on. But Odom is right there in the mix.
For sure. And our second team that we think is going to be a dark horse, we've got Balling. They are picked to finish third in District 14 3A Division 2, but that's because they are behind Tidehaven and East Bernard, both teams that are ranked in our preseason poll here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. They got a ton of experience coming back on both sides of the ball with a lot of depth pretty much at every position that they've got. And a stat that I found that was pretty cool, this is the most experience they have coming back as a team since their state title appearance back in 2016 when they lost to Gunner, I believe, in the state finals. So if all the stars align, I think that's a good indication that this Balling team is going to have a good season. You know, they're going to have to get past Tidehaven and East Bernard at some point because they're all in the same district. But if they can turn on the Jets and they can get something cooking on offense, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, yeah. They've got 10 starters returning on offense and 11 starters returning on defense. When we say, like, almost everyone's back, we mean quite literally there is one starter not back on the offense. Everyone else is back.
Right.
So that in and of itself is going to bump you up.
Right.
And the other side of that, one of those returning starters is the quarterback, which is coach's son.
Yeah.
So anytime you have a coach's son at quarterback, I personally think you have a little bit of a leg up. But the other side of that, not only can the kids sling it, they have big depth at running back. And I think that having three guys that can make really substantial, I mean, they had three guys that one had like 800 yards last year, one had 700, and the other had 600.
Jeez.
That's to spread the ball around.
I was going to say that's
that
a good
much.
sign that they're spreading the ball that much
Exactly.
too. You know, you got a lot of experience, and that was my next point that I was going to come up. You can have a team full of unbelievable players, but when you have a lot of experience coming back, that's a recipe for success right in itself. Let's move on to our last storyline to follow. Can Refurio make it back to state for the first time since 2019? And we kind of already have our answer, but we're going to kind of talk through it as grown adults shall. They advanced to the regional final. They have advanced to at least the regional final in every season since Jason Herring took over as head coach. And if you remember last year, they made it to, it was the quarterfinals, right? Or did they make it?
They made it to the regional finals.
They made it to the regional finals and
for the
Shiner.
second year. Or, well, they lost to Shiner for the second year in a row. They won the year before that.
Yes, and then that was the game that you went to. So
you
can talk a lot about a lot of good things about Refurio and if they're going to be able to make it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and
again.
So if you go back to our preseason rankings, obviously they're ranked third. And that's the first time that Refurio has been ranked third. And it's always... Y'all all know this. It's Shiner, Refurio. 1-2. And now every year that kind of switches off. It depends on what they have coming back, what we're looking at here. I'm going to say right here, I'll make my statement, and Coach Jason Herring is known to make people look like an absolute fool. So if anyone wants to cut this, and if Refurio makes it to the state championship and I look like a total dummy, that's fine. I'm putting my stock into Timpson. So obviously the fun thing about this year is the fact that Shiner and Refurio are in the same district.
Yeah.
That's the fun part. So what that means is we continuously see them in the regional finals. That just means we get 2 Shiner Refurios this year, which for any Texas high school football fan is like the most exciting thing in the world. So we'll get a district game with them, and then the likelihood of us seeing them in the Region 4 regional final almost put your life savings on it at this point,
Right.
you know. But my thing is, I do not think that they will make it back to state. Now, could they beat Shiner? Maybe. Shiner has Dalton Brooks, the younger of the Brooks brothers, like Ashley mentioned earlier. Doug took off, went to Kingsville. Very happy to see him there. Dalton is back. He's committed to A&M. He was always
he is their team.
He is the Brooks brother, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Doug was a fantastic counterpart to it, but I think that Dalton is the Brooks brother. So he's back. Am I saying that Refurio couldn't get Shiner? I think that they could. But what I'm saying, getting to state, is if they beat Shiner, which, again, you have to get through Dalton Brooks, a tough, tough job. If you make it past that, then you have Timpson. And Timpson's coming out of Region 3. Like, they are our Region 3 favorite to come out of there. You've got Terry Bussey at quarterback back, a just loaded team. And I just think that even if they make it past Shiner, you will have played Shiner twice and you have to play
Yeah.
Timpson to get to state. That's grueling.
Yeah.
That is grueling.
That's a lot for a good team. And it's hard to beat a good team twice, too. So we're probably going to see that series split halfway down the middle, but
which will be interesting too to
Yeah.
see, because like a lot of times we used to see that with like Munster Windthorst when they were back in the same district. We saw that a lot, where it was always, hey, you meet here in district, you meet here
think
again
that's
in the
awesome.
regional finals, and it's
because you don't know what's going to happen.
yeah, and a lot of times, I mean, if you literally take a look at the statistics of a lot of teams, it's hard to beat a good team twice. So just because you win in district sometimes doesn't play out that well in that, because they're hungry, they see the finish line, they're coming for revenge. So being able to see that will really be interesting to see how Shiner Refurio plays out in and of itself. And then you have Da Bears just looming over Region 3. So 2A Division 1, as always, is going to be really fun. And really, one of the classifications that Region 3 and 4 are almost more fun than 1 and 2. It doesn't always work out that way, but almost consistently that's how it works out in 2A Division 1.
Right, right.